Hello, friend. Today we are going to discuss the story. The story is about the income tax man. So let's start. The first notice that was taken of me when I settled down recently was by a gentleman who said he was an assessor, a word that I did not understand very well. I said I had never heard of his branch of business before, but I was very glad to see him in spite of that. Would we sit down? He sat down. I did not have anything particular to say, but I felt that people who have arrived at the important position of keeping a house must be conversational, must be easy and friendly in society. So, as I could think of nothing else to say, I asked him if he was opening his shop in our neighborhood. He said he was. I did not wish to appear to know nothing, but I had hoped he would mention what he had for sale. How is trade? I asked him, and he said fair. I then said we would visit his shop, and if we liked it as well as any other, we would give him our business. He said he thought we would like his place of business well enough to use no other. He said he had ever met anybody who would go off and hunt up another man in the same kind of business. After trading with him once, that sounded rather too confident, but the man looked honest enough. I do not know how it happened exactly, but gradually we appeared to become more friendly in our conversational, and then everything went along very comfortably. We talked and talked and talked, at least I did, and we laughed and laughed and laughed. At least he did. But all the time my mind was working hard. I was determined to find out all about his business in spite of his mysterious answer, and I was determined that I would get it out of him without knowing what I was doing. I listened to trap him with a deep trick. I would tell him all about my own business, and he would naturally grow to be like me, so much that he would forget to be careful. And he would tell me all about his affair before he realized what I was trying to do. Then I thought of saying to him, Sir, you little know what a clever person you are dealing with. But I said, No, you would never get how much money I made giving talks to people this winter and last spring. No, I don't believe I could. To save my life. Let me see. About $2,000 perhaps. But no, sir, I know you could not have made so much as that. So 1700. Ha ha, I knew you could not guess. I received for my tax last spring and this winter $14,750. What do you think of that? Well, it is very surprising. That's a very large amount of money. I will make a note of it. And you say even this wasn't all. All. My dear sir, there was my income from the newspaper, the Daily Waroop, about well watered. Say well, I should like to see myself rolling in just such an ocean of money. 8,000 you say to about $8,000 for example. I'll make a note of it. Well, man. And in addition to all this, am I to understand that you had still more income? Chapter 2. Ha ha ha, you are only at the beginning of it. I wrote a book, The Conscience Abroad. Price 3.5 to $5 according to the cover. Listen to me, look in me the eye. During the last 4 months and a half, we have sold 95,000 copies of that book. 95,000? Think of it. Average $4 a copy. Perhaps it's nearly $400,000. My dear said I get half. Good heavens! I will write that down. 14,750 at 200. Total about. Well, I can hardly believe it. The total is about 213 or $14,000. Is that possible? Possible. If there is any mistake, it is the other way. It's more. 214,000 is my income for this year, if I know how to add up. Then the gentleman got up to go and handed me large envelope and said that it contained everything I might like to know about his business. Would in fact be proud to have the business of a man with such a large income. As soon as he had gone, I opened his envelope. I studied the paper carefully. I then called the cook and said, "Hold me while I faint." Ah, what an evil man he was! His envelope contained nothing in the world except a form on which to report my income for the purpose of income tax. A long list of impolite questions about my private affairs, filling the best part of 4 long pages of small print questions. I may say, palmed with such wonderful skill that the oldest and wisest man in the world couldn't understand the meaning of most of them. Question 2. That were designed to make a man report about 4 times his actual income, to stop himself telling a lie. I looked for a way out of my troubles, but there did not appear to be any. Inquiry number 1 covered my case generously and completely. What were your profits during the past year from any trade, business, or work, whatever carried on? And that inquiry was followed by 13 other of any equally searching nature. The gentle of them demanded information about whether I had been a robber on the open road, or whether I had set fire to anything, or had any other secret way of getting money, or had received any property which was not mentioned in my statement of income, as stated opposite inquiry number 1. It was very clear that the stranger had let me make a fool of myself. By encouraging my pride, the stranger had persuaded me to admit an income of $214,000. It appeared that by law 1,000 of this was free from income tax, which was only a drop in the ocean. At the legal rate of 5%, I had to pay over to the government and tax the terrible sum of $10,650. I should say at this stage that I did not do it. I know a very wealthy man whose house it is a palace, who spent a great deal, but a man who has no income, as I have often noticed when looking at the list for taxes paid by other citizens, and I went to him for advice. He took my paper, picked up his pen, and suddenly I was a very poor man. It was the neatest, neatest thing that ever was. He did it simply by cleverly arranging the list of allowances. He wrote down my state, national and city taxes, as so much, my losses by flood, fire, and so on, as so much my losses on sales of property and animals sold, on payment for rent of home, on repair and improvements, as so much. He wrote down salary already taxed as an officer of the United States Army or other service as so much. He wrote down other things. He found unbelievable amounts to sit against my income. From each other one of these allowances, each and every one of them, and when he had finished, he handed me the paper, and I saw immediately that during the year of my income as profit had been $1,250 and 40 cents. Now he said, the $1,000 is free from tax by law. What you must do is to go and swear that this information is true and then pay tax on the $250. While he was making this speech, his little boy, Willie, lifted a $2 note out of his pocket and disappeared, and I feel quite sure that if my stranger went to see that little boy tomorrow, the boy would tell lies about his income. Do you? Said I. Do you always arrange the allowances in this way for your own income, sir? Well, of course, if we didn't have those 11 questions under the heading of allowances, I would become a beggar every year in order to support this hateful and evil, this cruel and terrible government. This gentleman stands very high among the very best of the rich men of the city, the men of moral value, of high business standard, of great social standing, and so accepted his suggestion. I went down to the tax office. And under the cold eyes of my previous visitor, I stood up and swore to lie after lie, trick after trick, under my soul was coated with a thick layer of lies, and my self-respect was gone forever.